This video and all content on this channel is performed by a pest control professional, and it is always recommended to hire a pest control pro in your area to perform any pest control in or outside your home. Pesticides can harm you and your loved ones. Anyone who is performing the information in this video is doing so at their own risk. If you decide to try the info provided in this video, please always check with the local laws in your area and read the labels of any product you use. The label is the law.
Hey everybody, this is Jason Akers with Green Acres Pest Control, and Rory right there. And today I want to tell you about the time that I was almost poisoned by another exterminator. And this is a true story. I was almost poisoned by another exterminator. And spoiler, it wasn't Rory. He didn't try to poison me. It's been pretty good while ago. I was probably about Rory's age, 16, 17 years old. And my father and I were treating a house for termites. So there's a product on the market that a lot of people don't know about because it's considered restricted, meaning only people with a license, like a pest control applicator license, can purchase this product. And not just a license, but you have to be licensed to use restricted use pesticides. Now, basically, this is a category that has been separated away for pesticides that are deemed as just too toxic for the general public to be able to purchase without the know-how to be able to use them. And so my father and I were under a house treating for termites. Now, this was a very unique house because it had a crawl space that had poured concrete under it. Now, it was pretty miserable crawling under the house anyway because it wasn't smooth concrete. It was all rough and the gravels were sticking up, and every time you'd crawl over them, it felt horrible. We wore knee pads. We tore up like 3 pairs of knee pads underneath this house because the ground was so extremely rough to your knees and to your hands and everything. And so we were under this house treating for termites, and my dad was drilling. Now, we have to drill in order to eliminate a termite infestation. You have to drill through concrete in order to treat the soil underneath. So the soil surrounds the wall, the foundation wall of your home. Termites live in the soil. They come up from underground and they get the wood and they take it back down to the ground and they feed the colony. Well, in this certain instance where the concrete was poured up to the foundation wall, the termites were coming up in the expansion joint, crawling up the wall. They had built little dirt tubes up the wall, and so we had to drill through that poured concrete crawl space. Now, right through the floor down in order to get the pesticide to where it needed to go because, like I said, the termites were coming from under the concrete. So how did we get poisoned? Was it my dad that poisoned me? No, it wasn't my dad that poisoned me. We were doing the normal thing we always do, just treating for termites. So how did I get poisoned, or nearly poisoned? I actually was slightly poisoned. Not poisoned to death, but I actually did. I did actually have poisoning, from this other exterminator. So prior to us coming to this house and treating this house for termites, another exterminator, evidently inexperienced, had been to the home and they had applied a tracking powder. Now, mice and rats are, a serious problem. So what they do is, instead of a rat poison, which is the most common, use to get rid of mice other than maybe mouse traps, the mice come in, they eat the poison, and they go somewhere, presumably to die. Sometimes in your home, sometimes outside, it just depends. But that's the way rat poison works. Well, tracking powder is a form of rat poison. But the way it works is the mouse has to crawl through the dust. It's a dust. And when they walk through the dust, they pick it up on the soles of their feet. And as they're grooming themselves, they lick it off of their feet. And they get a lethal dose of rat poison. So if you've got a problem where the mice and the rats aren't consuming your mouse poison, you can use tracking powder. Now, like I said, tracking powder is restricted. You can only purchase it if you're an exterminator. So an exterminator had been under the house, and I know the company and everything that did it. They came under the house and they put tracking powder everywhere because the house was infested with rodents. Now, we were treating the house for termites. The house still had mice. The tracking powder wasn't working on the mice. But when we were under the house drilling through the concrete, because there was tracking powder everywhere. Now, we didn't know it was tracking powder because crawl spaces are naturally dusty. It's normal to have dust all over the place under a crawl space. They're a dusty, dirty place. So even though it was poured concrete, you assume that some dust would collect on the concrete. So what we did was we were drilling through the concrete floor, and the fans on the drill were stirring the dust up into the air really bad. We weren't wearing respirators because we were just drilling. You don't always have to wear a respirator unless you're applying a pesticide. So we were just drilling under the house, and we weren't wearing dust masks. Hindsight's 2020. Probably should have been wearing a dust mask under the house if we were drilling concrete. So that night, my dad got very ill. I got mild symptoms, but I wasn't the one running the drill. I was just under the house treating the holes. And so I didn't get exposed to it as much as he did. But he was actually drilling the holes, stirring the dust up into the air, breathing the dust deeply into his lungs, and all because another exterminator didn't pay attention to what they were doing. They went grossly against label. The label of a tracking powder is to be used inside burrows. You go out where the mice and the rats are burrowing in the ground, and you dust the burrows in the ground, and you seal them up so that when the mice and the rats come back through to come out of the ground, they crawl through the tracking powder and it kills them. That's the most effective way to use tracking powder. Not out in a crawl space or out where people are going to be exposed. You don't want to expose people. Yes, not very many people go under a crawl space. Usually exterminators, electricians, plumbers. But you don't want to poison those people either. You want to poison the mice and the rats. You don't want to poison people. The whole goal is to not poison people. People are not the target pest. While people can be pests, they're not the target pest for this situation. So, this was my instance. I was almost poisoned by another exterminator. I was actually mildly poisoned, truthfully, by another exterminator. My dad was much worse off than I was. We both recovered. We're both fine now. And like I said, I'm 40 now. I was 17. Rory, he's 17. And so this is the age I was when this occurred to me, when this happened to me. And so hopefully you've learned the importance of obeying the label. Like I put on every one of my videos, the label is the law. It's extremely important to follow your labels. You could actually end up poisoning somebody if you're not careful about what you're doing. Now, restricted use, you do have to have a license to buy it. This was obviously gross negligence on the part of the exterminator that was licensed, that should have known better. But you can't just use a pesticide. You can't just use a rodenticide. You can't just use a termiticide. You can't use these products unless you're going to follow your label. So hopefully this video has been beneficial to you, taught you something about the importance of obeying labels, and it's a little story about what happened to me when I was young. So you guys have a really great day. I really appreciate it. And don't forget, I live stream every Thursday nights. Come chat with me, hang out. We'll talk about bugs. We'll talk about pest control. We'll talk about poisoning people and how you really shouldn't do it. So y'all have a real great one. I appreciate it. And Rory, say hi.
Hi.
Say bye.
Bye.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye.